Sarah gulped the last bit of wine in her glass down her gullet. She closed her eyes, let out a sigh, and looked at her husband. Michael, I cheated on you. Michael and Sarah were out on their boat in the Atlantic with their two friends, Sean and Melissa. The water was rather still, and the sun was high in the sky. A slight breeze cut across the ocean, refreshing the four on the boat. But Sarah's words, they took the wind out of everyone's chest. You what? I cheated on you, Michael. Now's the best time for you to tell this to me? While we're out here, with our friends, having a good time? I thought this was the best time. How? We're here with Melissa and Sean, and I thought it would be safer. Safer? This makes me feel ashamed, Sarah. This makes me feel weak, Sarah. What the fuck, Sarah? See? This is why I told him on the boat. Wait, did they know? Did you know, Melissa? Yes or no, Melissa? Sean? Yeah, she told us, Mike. Why didn't you tell me, Sean? She just told us a few hours ago, before we got on the boat. You have to be kidding me, Sarah. I wish I was. You wish you were? So you feel bad? Yeah, I actually do. Did you not think about the kids, Sarah? About David? About Rebecca? About how this would affect them? I wasn't thinking, Mike. You weren't thinking. When do you think, Sarah? When do you think? You what? I'm sorry. Then why did you do it, Sarah? I was drunk. I was stupid. I made a mistake. Well, at least you can admit it. At least she can admit it, right, Melissa? Right, Sean? She's better than you in that regard. At least she didn't just sit on the boat and act like everything was normal, drinking wine, having snacks, laughing without telling me the bitter truth, Melissa. Sean? It was a mistake, Mike. I get it, Sarah. I get it. What do you want me to say to you? Look, it was worthless, Mike. I get it too. I betrayed you. I ruined us. You ruined us. Michael thought for a second, his head hunched over, eyes pointed at the water, hands on the rail. He took in a deep breath, closed his eyes, stood up, shoulders back, looked at Sarah and said, We'll see. We'll see. Michael sat in his study, his hands on his head, thinking about the paper in front of him. He'd been reeling for the past 2 days over the news Sarah told him on the boat. He'd been busy meeting with a few clients on Monday and Tuesday to catch up, but the very idea of what Sarah did ate away at him and he was unable to focus. He used to be a successful trial lawyer, but he'd recently retired from the majority of such work and was now primarily working as a professor of law and logic. Suddenly, the door opened. Mike, can I talk to you? Mike didn't look up from the paper. About what, Sarah? I feel horrible. So do I. But at least you got off. It wasn't worth it. Then why did you do it? Because I'm fucked up. Okay? Aren't we all? Are you going to leave me? I should. You betrayed me. You broke my trust. How could I ever come back to you? I don't know if you could. I shouldn't. But will you? Michael looked up at Sarah. His eyes indicated that he was tired and sad. He furrowed his brow and quickly looked down at the paper in front of him. Yes. You will? Why? Because I love you. How? What am I to do? You have to regain my trust. Okay. How? That's what I've been mulling over tonight. A contract? In a way, it's an agreement. An agreement we're both bound to. What do I have to do? He looked up at Sarah and began. First, you have to agree to the terms. 1. I write to you, you write to me, every day, a letter. The letter will include everything that we hated and loved about the other that day. Hate? Yes. Why would I tell you what I've hated about you? Are you going to be honest with me, or not? I see. 2. If either of us needs help, regardless of what it is that the other needs help with, the other will help them, no matter what. Okay, I can understand that. Do you? Yes. Why do you think I'm writing that? I don't really know. To show that you and I are loyal to the other. 3. Neither will have sex with the other. What? Let me finish. Neither will have sex with the other unless the other completely agrees. Okay, that seems fair. Does it? Yeah, I get that one. Then why did I write it? Because sex is not a given? Partly. It's because we need to recognize that sex with the other is meaningful. If I'm reticent, if you're reticent, the other needs to understand why. We have to be completely honest with each other. We have to learn to listen and respect one another. Any more? 2. Okay. 4. Every Wednesday night, starting next Wednesday, we will sit down, share a bottle of wine, and do something. What? What's the point of that? It's a ritual. A ritual? What? Are we a cult of 2? Funny. Kinda. Listen. The point is for us to be in each other's company. To sit down, see the other, be with the other, and to listen to the other. We should care about each other. So, we're going to represent that with a date night. Even if we don't say anything and we just end up sitting in silence. At least we're together. Alright. And the last one? Michael glanced at his paper and then back at Sarah. Number 5. After 1 year from next Wednesday, you, Sarah Adel, will have a date with a person of your choosing. One that you find attractive, to be placed in a similar situation. One that's analogous to the act of infidelity that started this all. To be tested one final time. Michael grinned. What? Yes, you're going to be placed in the same situation you were before. Why? To see if you're worth your word. Sarah started pacing the room. This was one rule that she wasn't sure she wanted to agree to, but if she was going to fully win back Michael's trust, she would have to agree to all of the rules. Okay. Raise your right hand in the air. Repeat after me. Repeat after me. Hilarious, Sarah. Fine. Repeat after me. I, state your name, will follow these 5 rules to their completion. I, Sarah Adel, will follow these 5 rules to their completion. If I break any of these rules, my marriage with me, Michael Adel, will be void and null. If I break any of these rules, my marriage with you, Michael Adel, will be void and null. Michael smiled. And following these rules, I shall demonstrate and renew my loyalty to my husband, Before God. God? Yes, Sarah. Fine. In following these rules, I shall demonstrate and renew my loyalty to my husband. Before God. Good. Now cut your hand with a knife. What? Michael burst out laughing. I'm just kidding. Fuck you, Mike. That was a joke. The rest isn't. Here, sign your name with this pen. Michael slid the paper and pen over to Sarah. She looked down at it and breathed a sigh of relief. She had a chance to stay with her husband, as long as she kept her word. Why'd you decide to do this, Mike? For David and Rebecca, Sarah. For our kids. So you don't love me? No, I do. But I love you for them. Not for me. They're a part of you, Sarah. A part of us. They are, aren't they? You bet. I love you, Mike. She signed the paper. I love you too, Sarah. A few weeks had passed since Sarah signed the agreement with Michael, and she felt like things were going well. Sarah was at her place of work, La Alegria de la Luna, a theater. She had a contract there that stipulated that she be a part of a performance every year. This year, she was a part of a Shakespearean production, Macbeth, playing the role of Lady Macbeth for the second time in her career. She'd studied theater her entire life, along with performance, psychology, history, philosophy, all to ensure she was able to represent the character she played in the most human light possible. She and Melissa were on their 15-minute break. They both had a cup of coffee in their hands, and they were chatting about their days. Melissa was intrigued by what was going on between Sarah and Michael, and Sarah, always the socialite, was happy to entertain her. So, what's it been like? Melissa asked, with both reticence and intrigue. Not bad, honestly. Melissa smirked. I sensed some doubt there. No, not at all. They're just a lot. You genuinely wouldn't think writing a letter every day would be a big deal, but it is. You can really let yourself go, though. It's actually rather liberating. Really? Yeah, I get to tell him everything that he did that day that pissed me off. I didn't even do that before the thing. So you feel freer? Yeah, honestly, I do. It's been fun, too. I've really enjoyed our Wednesday night wine. Melissa chuckled. That's what you call it? Yeah, is that weird? I think so. But I'm also not the one that cheated on her husband. You're such a bitch, Mel. Yeah, well, I'm just being honest. That was a shitty thing you did to Michael. I'm surprised he took it so well. Well, he didn't. But he took it better than I expected. What did you think he was going to do? Really? Leave me. But he didn't. He really loves me. He didn't leave you just because he loves you? I mean, not just because he loves me. He did it for the kids. For the kids? Well, at least he's not an idiot. You wouldn't want to go through a divorce and have one kid hate you for the rest of your life while the other loves you. Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted David or Rebecca to have picked sides like that. Do they know? No! Oh, God! No! That's probably for the best. Probably. David would have probably hated me for doing that to Mike. And what about Rebecca? She would have hated me too. Both of them? Yeah. No. One of them, at least, would have forgiven you. Why should they have? Well, I mean, Michael forgave you. He's got wisdom. Don't they? It comes with age and suffering. Sarah looked down, back up at Melissa, and smiled a smile, both sad and sweet. Well, I'm pretty sure they haven't suffered. Are they old vampires that were turned when they were teens? Funny. No, they're not. Well, in that case, they probably wouldn't have understood. Sarah sighed. I told you, Mel. She looked down at her feet and clicked them together like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the back of the theater. Break's over! Sarah immediately jumped to attention. The stage manager called out to the actors sitting in the theater chairs while Sean made himself apparent. You heard the monster. Your break's over, ladies and gentlemen. Mel, I need you backstage. Sarah, are you ready for Act 2, Scene 2? Born ready, Sean. Good. He smiled at Sarah. He started to look around the theater. Where's our Macbeth? Michael was getting coffee with his longtime friend, John. The two were at the cafe, Le de Repos du Soleil, relaxing and having an amicable conversation. Cars were passing up and down the street, and the weather was pleasant. There was a refreshing, warm breeze, and the sun was out, but not overbearing, and a few clouds were blocking the bright blueness of the sky. Michael was wearing his professional attire, while John was dressed more akin to someone who was going out to play golf. You teaching today, Mike? I did. How'd your class go? It went well. These kids still don't seem to get the most basic parts of the curriculum, though. They don't know how to reconcile what I'm teaching them. Why? They were never taught to think the way I'm teaching many of them to think. And if they were, some do, some always do, but the majority don't. Basics? Oh yeah, not my law students. They're fine. No, it's the logic students. It's always a bunch of undergrads who take the course for the credit to graduate but have no clue what they're getting into. And the sad part? They should be taught this in high school. Hell, middle school. Why aren't they? Politics. It's always politics, isn't it? Always. So how are things with the whole, the affair? Yeah. I didn't want to say it. Just come out with it, John. There was a pause between them. Yeah, things are going well. That's it? What would you prefer I say? That things are awesome? That I couldn't have asked for anything better? That everything is just peachy keen? Well, it's not. That's life. Are you okay? Yeah, of course I'm okay. That's not the point. She broke my heart. One stupid night, and she broke my heart. But we're working through it. Why? Why? What a stupid question. The kids. That's it? No. I also love her. Still? Of course I still love her. I loved her from the moment I saw her when we were in college together. Did I ever tell you about the first time I saw her perform? No, I don't think you did. Tell me. We were in college, as I said, and she was performing in some avant-garde play. It was out there, but it touched me unlike anything I'd seen before. So what did you do? I talked with her. And how did it go? I stumbled through everything I said to her, fell flat on my face, made myself look like a fool. How the hell did you marry her? Luck. And hard work. And faith. You had faith in her? Her? Michael laughed. I had faith that she was the one. And that's all it took? No. I worked my ass off for her, literally and figuratively. You certainly found your ass again. Funny. Honestly, that's funny. But really, she could have had any boy on that campus, any man in that town. But I set my sights on her, played it as cool as I could around her. Gave her some time, worked my way into success, and eventually proved myself to her. Were there others? Are you kidding me? I'm certain there were. But she chose you. Eventually. Oh boy, what was she thinking? The two laughed at John's joke. The real question? What was I thinking? What were you thinking? That I loved her. That I wanted to do good by her. That she was good for me. That's it? That? And she was gorgeous. John chuckled with Mike. Can I talk to you about something, Mike? Sure, shoot. I don't know if things are going well between Judith and I. What do you mean? I don't think I want to be with Judith anymore. Oh no. I knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you have kids, John? You really think that's all we had to do? That's the whole point, John. We were happy together. Yeah, but why were you together? Because we were happy together. Were. That doesn't last forever, as we can clearly see. I can spice it up. I can do something different. Michael took a sip of his coffee. Like what, John? Like, we can have date nights and I can write her, you know? Be a real romantic. That's not going to help, John, Michael scowled. So what am I supposed to do? Do you have a dog? She's allergic. Cat? She thinks they're boring. Well, I'm certain a fish will help. Really? A fish? No, John. A fish won't help. Fine. What do you want me to do? That's up to you now. I would have had kids, John. We didn't want any. Yeah, I know. That's what you told me. Michael looked disappointed. So what am I supposed to do, Mike? I don't want to lose her. But it feels like everything that made the relationship worthwhile has been sucked out of it. Now, it's in your hands, John. Michael looked at his watch and then back up at John. He stood up, picked up his jacket from the back of his chair, and threw it on. I've got to go, John. I have a few papers that I need to finish up for the school. It's a bunch of bureaucratic busy work. But what's new? Yeah, I hear that. We should do this again, soon. I'll give you a call, okay? Yeah, sounds good. Michael grabbed the waiter before he left and handed him a 20. Thanks for the drinks. He looked back at John before heading off to work. Hey, John. Good luck, okay? Sincerely, I mean it. Don't do anything foolish. I'll try not to, Mike. I hope you don't, John. I hope you don't. Three months had passed since Sarah started her rehearsal period, and Michael was on winter break. The two were sitting down for their Wednesday night wine night. Michael was wearing a black and white suit, and Sarah was wearing a black sheath dress with a maroon trim at the bottom. The two were drinking Michael's favorite wine, Nobile di Montepulciano Riserva, a beautiful red. It's always the Riserva. Not always. Michael took a sip from his glass, closed his eyes, and grinned. It seems like it. He looked at her directly. What would you prefer? Honestly, you're not wrong. It's a good wine. But it always seems the same. Yeah, it does. But it's good. Michael let out a sigh of exasperation. So why complain? I wasn't complaining. I was merely making an observation. You sounded like you disliked the wine. Oh, you're just hearing things. She waved her hand at him, dismissively. I've seen enough of your plays, listened to you rehearse your lines, have been around people long enough to tell that you were annoyed. Michael looked at Sarah intently. Are you trying to get information out of me? I just want you to tell me the truth instead of skirting around things, passive-aggressively. You've been around women for how long? Michael grinned and raised his glass to her. Fair point. I finished your letter for today. So did I. How about I read it to you? Now? Why not? Fine. Okay. I mean, I'll give you the gist. I don't want to read the whole thing to you. It'd be too long. I've done that much that's pissed you off. You've done a lot. Things that have pissed me off. Things that I adore. So what do you want to start with? I'll start with the longest part. The things you adore about me? Sarah let out an uproarious laugh. Good one. Really? Michael had a scowl on his face. He realized she was just mocking him. Go ahead. Lay it on me. Okay. I hate that you never ask me what I want to drink on Wednesday. What? Let me finish, she said sharply. Fine, finish. I have to start over now. Okay, I'm listening. Good. I hate that you never ask me about what I want to drink on Wednesday. I hate that you always think you're right. I hate that you don't praise me enough after my performances. I hate that you never ask me about my day or what work was like for me. I hate that you're always so involved with your work that you don't see that I want to spend time with you. I hate that you laugh at cruelty. Okay, I'm done. No good things? Yeah, two. I love that you help the kids keep focused on what's important to them. I also love that you kiss my cheek in the morning before you leave for work, while I'm still asleep. If you're still asleep, you wake me up. You want me to read my notes to you for today? Yeah, of course. Okay. Don't be too harsh with me. You read my letter every day. Yeah, but I never hear it from you. Fine. Don't be cruel. I'm trying to be honest with you. She smiled. Okay. Just let it out. I'm trying. Then do it. Then let me. Okay. He let out an exasperated sigh. Okay. I hate when you toy with me like I'm nothing more than something for you to play with. I hate when you act as if you're the center of attention, when you're not. I hate when you think you're saying something funny, special, or worthwhile, when it isn't really important. Man, that was kind of mean. But yours wasn't? Just finish up. Fine. I love watching you perform. You awe me every time I see you in character. I love the way you nurture the excellencies in our children. And I love how you always know what beer I like to drink when I get home. That's what you love about me? Yeah. What's wrong with that? I thought they were unique things that you'd find interesting. Beer. You like that I know what beer you like to drink. Yeah, I love that. She let out a sigh. How romantic. I think so. You think me getting you a beer is romantic? No, not quite. I think that you knowing what beer I like and always offering me one is lovely. I love that. Is that what I am to you? A waitress? No, you're my wife. And that's what wives do, right? No, I just love that you do that for me. Man, that's what you're focused on? Aren't you happy that I'm praising you for how you're raising our children? They're our kids. Oh, come on, Sarah. Don't you realize that they're what's important? I don't need you to tell me that. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love that about you. I love that you simply know the value of our children and are trying to give them a better future. Whatever. Man, are you letting the wine get to you or what? Maybe I'm just acting like I'm the center of attention. In a way, you are. but you're taking it in an entirely unnecessary direction. If you weren't a performer, I would think that your histrionics were a sign of delusion. Yeah, I'm a big diva, a drama queen. But you are! I know, Michael. He began to laugh at her tantrum. Sarah scowled and looked at him with piercing, fiery eyes. Don't laugh at me, Michael. Do you think I'm being cruel? Oh, good. You listened to me. Sarah stood up and started to pace the room. She was drunk and needed to walk around to get her blood flowing, to think a hair bit more clearly. Look, Sarah, I'm not laughing at you because I think you're stupid. I'm laughing at you because I love that about you. I love these idiosyncrasies of yours. Do you think I'm stupid? Are you kidding? Look at what you do. Look at what you have to be like in order to do that. Do you understand how intelligent you have to be to do what you do for a living? Honestly, not that smart. She looked down at her feet and clicked them together. Don't doubt yourself. You are smart. Smarter than you realize. You're praising me? Yeah, I guess I am. Why wouldn't I? Because you don't. Michael smirked. But I do. She looked up at Michael. He could see the gears spinning behind her eyes. They were honed in on him, and if she could shoot lasers out of them, they'd probably have gone right through him. Pick up the cheese. What? Said Michael, confused. Rule number 2. Pick up the cheese. How is this going to help you? It doesn't matter. No matter how absurd it seems, you're to help me. You're right. Good. Pick up the cheese. Michael looked down at the brie. He didn't want to pick it up. It was nearly melted, but he knew that he had to follow the rules, so he did. The cheese was like soft butter in his hand. If it wasn't for the rind, it would have been like goo seeping between his fingers. He held it and looked at her. What do you want me to do with it? Give it to me. Give it to you? Yeah, let me take a bite from it. From your hand. Michael walked over to Sarah. He put the slice of brie up to her mouth and let her take a bite. Her lips enveloped the cheese as she bit it, but her eyes never left him. She swallowed the cheese and looked at the table. What else do you want? Michael asked. Bring me the bottle of wine. The whole bottle? Did I stutter? Michael walked over to the table, grabbed the bottle of Nobile di Montepulciano Riserva, and brought it to her. She took 2 large gulps from it, keeping her eyes on Michael, and removed the bottle from her lips. You have some dripping from your mouth, Michael said, with a smile. Good. Bring me my napkin. Is this all you're going to have me do? Rule number 2. Michael realized she was toying with him. He grabbed her napkin, picked it up and brought it over to her. Instead of giving her the napkin, though, he wiped her mouth with it, himself. She kept her eyes locked on him the entire time. He threw the napkin on the ground and embraced her with an amorous kiss. He pressed himself up against her as they locked lips, then passionately held her against the wall. He pulled himself away from her for a moment. Do you remember rule number 3? Sarah was breathing heavily. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes or no? He began to kiss her neck. She breathed out. Yes. Michael hit the light switch to their right. Sarah was walking through a garden. The sky was blue and there were no clouds in sight. To the west, there was a hill with a single oak tree. It was verdant, its branches reaching upward into the sky, its leaves flowing in the cool breeze. She felt at peace. On the horizon, she could see two people. They looked like her son and daughter, David and Rebecca. They warmed her heart. Then, from nowhere, clouds rapidly rolled in. The sky became somber and tenebrous. A torrent of frigid rain fell out of the heavens, and a mesmerizing and blinding flash of lightning struck the earth. For a moment, Sarah couldn't see. She felt a wave of heat wash over her body and the breath ripped from her chest. After a moment of asphyxiation, she caught the wind and was able to inhale again. Her sight slowly came back to her, and she realized that she was no longer standing where she was before. The sky had turned from blue to a carotene copper. The beautiful green garden that she was standing in had transformed into a forsaken plain of dust and detritus. The tree she once saw at a distance had become a smoldering heap of death. Its verdant color turned pewter and tawny. At the base of the tree's trunk, Rebecca and David were sitting. As her eyesight returned, she fully grasped their condition. Both of their legs had been severed from their bodies, and they were chewing on their own flesh. Sarah let out a blood-curdling scream. Sweating and panting, Sarah awoke from the nightmare she was having. She looked over to her left and saw Michael. He was still asleep. She pressed her hand against her forehead and took her pulse. After several deep breaths, she laid back down, but she couldn't grasp what her dream meant. She wrote down what she remembered. For the rest of the night, she laid awake, thinking on what she just witnessed. It was mid-March now, and the Adel family were at the White Beach Cemetery. Sarah's father, Ira MatTehCat, had died. The whole family was dressed in black, formal attire. Rebecca was holding a bouquet of roses over the grave. It's been a month since he died, Sarah. Michael looked at her and saw her tearing up. Today's his birthday. I know, Sarah. Michael pressed his hand against her back. What do you kids think? About what? Said David. About your grandfather. He's dead, said David, coldly. Yes, but is he nothing else, David? He's in the ground. He's decaying. He's returning to the earth. Of course you'd think that, Rebecca said in a chastising manner. So what do you think is happening to him, loser? I think that one day he will rise again. I think that he's, in essence, asleep, that one day he'll wake, and that we'll all be together again, said Rebecca in a heartfelt manner. How do you know that, Becca? Said David. I just feel it. In me. No one cares about your feelings, Becca. That's not true, David, said Michael scornfully. But it is true, Dad. People don't care about your feelings. You can't do anything with just your feelings. But you can do things with your feelings, David. Ugh, Dad, that's not the point. Did feelings propel people to build the nuclear power plants that provide us the energy to live our lives? Well, David, in a way, they were propelled by their feelings. Yes, I get what you're saying. They didn't just act on the world based on how they felt, but they were propelled by their common care for humanity to provide them with more than what they had, so that they could live better lives. Yeah, but Dad, it was the facts that mattered. It was objective reality. You're missing the point. Why would they do what they did if they didn't feel? Because they wanted to help others. And why do you help others? Because you care for them? David sighed in defeat. They also wanted renown, Dad. And money, retorted David to his father. Yeah, they could have, but they're not exclusive. Nor do those desires negate the fact that an internal sensation was what drove them, not reality in and of itself. said Michael. Rebecca started to laugh and mock David. Na 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 na, told you so. It's not that simple, Rebecca, said Michael judgmentally. Without a reality, independent of what we think, we would not be able to have that sense of care that compels us to do better things. So what's true? Said Rebecca, doubtfully. It's somewhere in the middle, Becca. A bit of that, he gestured outwards, towards the world, and a lot of this, he pointed towards his head. What matters more, Dad? Said David, intrigued. The world is what is, David. But with our minds, with reason and thought, we can change the world. So it's all in our heads, Dad? No, David. What's in our heads is out here. He gestured to what was around him. And what's in our heads, he pointed to his head. It needs what's out here. Again, he gestured to the world. So where's Grandpa, Dad? Said Rebecca. That's a good question, Becca. Sarah, where do you think Grandpa is? Sarah looked up at Michael. She didn't want to answer him. She didn't want to explain herself to Rebecca. She looked down at her feet and stood still. Go ahead, Sarah, tell her. I think he's still with us, said Sarah woefully. Then why are you sad, Mom? Asked Rebecca inquisitively. Because he shouldn't have died. Shouldn't have? Questioned David. It's a long story. It didn't have to be this way, but it is. She looked at David and rubbed her hand through his hair. What do you mean it didn't have to be this way, Mom? Said Rebecca. Is death necessary? Chimed in Michael. What do you mean, Dad? Is there any sound reason that we must die? I don't think so. What about you, David? Do you think there's any sound reason that we must die? But we do, David said, confused. Yes, it does appear that we do, but again, must we? No, Why is it that we do? Our failure. Michael looked at Sarah. He put his arm around her shoulder, kissed her cheek, and looked at Ira's grave. Go ahead, Becca. Give your grandfather his flowers. Sarah looked at Michael and stopped Becca before she continued. Wait, Michael, Rebecca, Davy, we need to say a prayer. A prayer to who? Asked David. God. All right, Mom, if you'd like to, David said reluctantly. Before Rebecca continued, the four said a prayer of lamentation for Sarah's father. They bowed their heads, closed their eyes, and spoke their piece. When they'd finished, Sarah gestured to Rebecca to lay the roses on her grandfather's resting place. They turned around and walked away, together. It was the summertime again, a little over a year after Sarah had broken the news to Michael on the boat with Melissa and Sean. Michael was at a bar with John, Kevin O'Malley's. It was an old Irish bar that'd been around for over half a century. The two were sitting at a booth, both drinking a pint of Miller Lite. John, what's up? You haven't been your normal self tonight, asked Michael in a jovial yet concerned manner. A lot. A lot? That's not saying much, John. Are you having trouble at work? No. Did I do something? John took a swig from his drink and swallowed, burying his head in the glass. No, it wasn't you. Come on, then what is it? I cheated on Judith. All right? Michael looked down at his drink, took a long swig, abruptly put his glass down on the table and looked up at John. There was a drawn-out moment of silence between the two of them. Neither wanted to broach what John had just admitted to doing. All right. I hate lulls in conversations, and I can't let that go. What happened? I couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't happy. I went out on my own one night, came to this bar as a matter of fact, and found the girl that intrigued me the most. It was easy after that, but it was worthless. I didn't feel any happier. I didn't feel any better. And as I was laying in her bed, all I could think about was how Judith would feel. I think I understand. How? When Sarah cheated on me, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I could stay with her. She broke my heart. But your kids. That's right. But I thought about my kids. I thought about more than my own feelings, about more than my own ego. Honestly, if it wasn't for the kids, I don't know how I would have stayed with her. It was really all for the kids, wasn't it? Said John, broken. Not quite. I don't understand, Mike. Michael didn't know how he was going to explain this to John. Maybe they were simply too different. Did I tell you why I gave Sarah another chance? No. Not yet. Because I have faith in her. Because I hope that my love in her will be proven true. She's the mother of my children, a brilliant actor and performer, and a sharp and witty woman. She's the light of my life. I wouldn't have wanted to lose her. Do you know where she's at now? It's been a year since she cheated on me, and I gave her 5 rules to follow in order to regain my trust. Do you know what the last rule was? It was to be put in the same situation that she was before, when she cheated on me. You trust her that much? It's the best way to know whether I can trust her or not. And do you, Mike? Tonight? I do. I do trust her. Because I utterly love her. Why didn't I feel that way about Judith? What really happened between you and her? We just weren't happy. You told me that before. Was happiness really the center of your relationship? Was pleasure all that you were getting from each other? Honestly, I think so. I actually think so. We were pathetic, weren't we? I wouldn't say pathetic. I would say you were misguided. Misguided by what? Asked John, confused. It was my fault, Mike. Our fault. I didn't say it wasn't. But that doesn't mean you weren't misguided. You were misguided by your own conception of what was good and what was bad. You imposed what you thought would work onto reality, despite what's known to work. We did, didn't we? I'm afraid you did. John was focused on his beer. Michael took a swig from his pint and then looked back up at him. You really left her? John looked up at Michael. I did. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I couldn't live with the pain I caused her, with the suffering caused by the realization that all we were is gone. John looked back down at his pint. His eyes were welling up. He slid out from the booth that he was sitting in with Michael and stood up. I have to go, Mike. I can't stay here anymore. Where are you going? don't know. I just have to go. Sarah was at the Underground, a wine and appetizer bar. She was wearing a silver halter dress, her hair was up in a bun. Her nails were painted red and she had a light blue eyeshadow on. She was on a date with someone named Brandon. He had dark, brown hair that parted down the middle, a charming, Frankish nose, endearingly rectangular brown eyes, and a chiseled chin. He looked far younger than Michael, and was in better shape to boot. Sarah found it exceedingly difficult to take her eyes off of him. Do you come here often? Sarah was perplexed by the question. I mean, sometimes. I scope this place out all the time. You come here often? Oh yeah, this is a great watering hole. What do you drink here? Oh, everything. And everyone. He began to laugh at his own joke as though it were the funniest thing in the world. Everyone? Yeah, babe. This place is great to pick people up, to have a good time, to indulge in the sweeter things in life. He took the cherry from his drink and ate it. How old are you? She played with her ring finger. I don't tell people this often. I'm 29. What do you do? I do short films, model work. He tossed his hair. But I generally try to just be a good human. They pay you to be a good human? Oh yeah, babe. And I'm the best. She looked at her drink and started to stir it with the small, unusable straw the bartender gave her, then back up at Brandon. I love what I do. When I see myself on screen performing, he winked. Sarah recoiled internally. I can't help but feel like I'm really making a difference in people's lives out there. Like I'm touching them in some profound way with my art, and my body, and my soul. He grinned deviously at Sarah. That sounds nice. She took a sip from her drink and swallowed the liquor. What do you plan on doing with that success? I want to travel the world, sail the 7 seas, become a pirate of the heart. A pirate of the heart? Sarah asked with confusion. A Blackbeard of love. Sarah let out a sigh. He gave her a look, as though he thought she enjoyed what he told her. Honestly, that sounds kind of stupid. It does, doesn't it? The look on his charming face didn't change. Sarah realized he just agreed with her because he wanted to get into her pants. Do you know how many drinks I've had, Brandon? Oh, you've had around 3. 3 drinks. She realized that was how many she had before, a year ago, when she had initially cheated on Michael. Do you feel drunk, Brandon? No. What about you, babe? No, I definitely don't. Perhaps it was the wine night she had with her husband. Perhaps it was the juvenile lustfulness of the man-boy in front of her. Or perhaps it really was her confidence in Michael. Either way, she felt nothing for this rather attractive and virile boy toy. Listen, do you want to know something? What, baby? I'm married. Ooh, Daddy likes. You're a naughty girl, aren't you? Sarah had become disgusted with the man before her. Actually, no, I'm not. Or at least, not anymore. I don't like you. You're very attractive, and I'm sure that there's lots of girls in here. She gestured to the bar around her. They would like to jump your bones. But me? I find you boring. You're good looking, don't get me wrong. But you're worthless. She smiled at him. There's no point in being with you. No point? Oh, babe, come on. Have a good time with me. He reached over and grabbed her hand. She immediately pulled it away. No. You don't feel like home. She stood up, put on the shawl that was hanging over her chair, and walked away from the table they were sitting at. Brandon looked around like a deer in the headlights. It was as though he'd never been dropped at the bar before. He started to laugh at himself, as though he were trying to play it cool, but he just ended up looking like a dunce. He stood up and walked over to the bar top, found the cutest girl, and started to hit on her. Sarah was back at the house. She walked into her bedroom. The lights were out, and Michael was sleeping in bed. She smiled at him, but she didn't want to turn on the lights or disturb him. She fumbled around the dark as she took her heels off, slipped out of her dress, and removed her remaining clothing, undoing her hair from its bun. She stood there, completely open, as Michael slept. She picked up the covers and slid into bed. She shimmied over to Michael, embraced him, and kissed him on the cheek. She closed her eyes as she wrapped her arm around him. Whether or not he woke up, she didn't care. She was home, with him. It was summer now, and the Adel family were out on the beach for the day, enjoying its beauty. It was filled with jovial and playful people. The water was cool and refreshing, and the crashing of the waves was peaceful, relaxing. David and Rebecca were playing in the ocean, while Michael and Sarah sat on the beach. Sarah was reading Cyrano de Bergerac. She hoped that she could play the part of Roxanne, but if nothing else, she'd like to play Lise. She put down the script. The sun was hot, and she was getting tired. She looked at Michael and grinned a soft and sweet smile. Do you know how long it's been, Michael? Michael was reading a book on the medieval philosopher Thomas Aquinas. He put down the tome-like text, looked up at Sarah, and pushed down his readers so that he could fully see his wife. How long? It's been a year. That's right. What are we going to do with the contract? The agreement? Yeah. He looked at her and smiled, his eyes glowing as he gazed upon her. It's been fulfilled. I'm certain that you love me. You want to know why I love you? Because I wouldn't leave you like John left Judy. Because my love for you is more than just my own happiness. He left her? There was nothing there for him anymore. Nothing? All the happiness in their relationship dissipated. So what did he do? He left me that night at the bar, the same night that you were out on your date. And what happened to him? He was found in his car on the side of I-42 in North Carolina. What did he do? He apparently had drug issues. Did he ever tell you that? No, he didn't. But I mean, why would he? The most valuable thing in his life was happiness. As long as he had pleasure, as long as he was happy, his life had value. But happiness fades. The things that give us pleasure so that we may feel happy, they diminish with time. Heroin. It was heroin. I mean, what better representation for the final tragedy is there in a life centered around pleasure and happiness than a death caused by heroin? And as such, he faltered to it. He faltered to the effects of a life culminating around his euphoria rather than purpose and good. He looked down at his book again. He appeared disturbed. He glanced back at Sarah. I truly didn't know that John had that issue, but it makes so much sense that he did. I talked to Judith about it too. She said that he didn't want her to tell anyone. Apparently, he started on painkillers. Then he needed something more. He was able to keep his usage to a minimum, but the issues he was having with Judith, she said that it probably set him off. That it probably was the reason why he just wanted to escape from everything. He looked down at his book again. I'm so sorry, Michael. Michael looked up at her. Don't be. That was John's choice. I'm happy that I'm with you. Hey, what was it that kept you from getting it on with your date? Oh, do you really want to know? Yeah, I absolutely do. He didn't feel like home. And I had a terrible dream. You had a bad dream. That's all that kept you from sleeping with him? I mean, he didn't feel like you, too, but yeah, the dream deterred me. No kidding. What was it about? The dream. I saw a garden that suddenly transformed into a wasteland. And Becca and David were there too, but they'd morphed into beasts that were eating their own legs. It was horrific. Call me crazy, but I think I understand why you didn't go through with the affair again. Do you think it was from God? I mean, somewhat, but that's irrelevant. You didn't want to hurt the kids. You didn't want to make a choice that would lead them down a path of self-consumption, like what happened to John. Michael went quiet and looked at the grains of sand on the beach. So is that it? Coming back. What do you mean? Do we have to keep following the rules? No, we don't have to. But that doesn't mean that they're not good rules. That they don't have a purpose, a meaning. What about rule number 2? I don't know. I like telling you what you have to do all the time. Really? Sincerely. Yeah. They both laughed with each other. Well, at least we can be honest with each other now. I still want to write to you. I mean, I'll read your letters, but you're kind of missing the point. Which is? Which is that you don't have to. You never had to. We could have just had faith in each other. Then what was the point? For a start, you needed to be redeemed, and the rules worked. They worked to do that. Secondly, you also had to believe it and act it out. Finally, I needed to know that I could trust you, and the rules were how. Then, did you have faith in me? I did have faith in you, but I needed to see that you could live up to what I hoped you could be. I'm happy you did that, Michael. I'm happy you wanted to. I'm happy you agreed to the terms. I'm really happy you followed through with it. It's because I love you. And I did it because I love you too. Can we still have our Wednesday night wine? Yeah, I'd like that. Sarah leaned over to Michael and kissed him. They reclined in their chairs, laid back, and looked out on the ocean. They closed their eyes and both took a rest.